I thank God for changing my genotype from AS to AA.
I'm an evidence of the liberation mandate, even when the doctors gave up on me, but God did not give up on me.
In March 2026, my mom called me that my grandfather is sick, that can I take care of him? I said yes. Prior to that time, I've been praying for his soul because he was the only one that has not received Christ in our family, because we come from this Muslim background. When I got to his place, I saw him seated, his legs were swelling up, his hands, he could not move anything. So I brought him to my house. From there, every 2 days, I would took him to the toilet, bathe him, and feed him. Every morning, I do go for covenant hour of prayer. So before I go, I will check on him. And that time, he's already awake. So he will tell me, where are you going? I said, I'm going to church. He said, you are going to Jesus? I said, yes. On Wednesday, the 18th of March, he called me. He sat me down. He said, what is it about Jesus that you are always running up and down saying you are going to church? I said, healing. And I said, you came from the Muslim background. I said, have you ever heard where somebody is sick and it was you? He said, no. So he now said, okay, that he wants to give his life to Christ. That was how that day I led him to the prayer of confession and he gave his life to Christ. In April, when the Easter Faith Convention was announced, I decided that I was going to be on the ground. On the third day in the morning, after Pastor Faith Oyedepo ministered, the bishop came over. He mounts the altar. Then I received a call from my children that Papa is lifeless on the ground. Even my neighbors, I heard the voice of my neighbors on the ground. They were shouting, so I ran out of the service. As I was going home, I told God, I said, this man cannot die in my house. He cannot die because he just gave his life to Christ. I said, Jesus, you came to give us life, not death. When I got home, I remember the testimony of Jesus with Jairus' daughter. How he told the people to leave the room except Peter and the other disciple. So I cleared the people out of the room. As they went out, I brought my 2 children inside and I locked the door. As I stood there looking at him lifeless, I remember the last word I caught from Mama. She said, look at the Faith Tabernacle, what do you see? Then she replied, she said, faith. How can you be in the Faith Tabernacle and you still have doubts?
Here we are at the Faith Tabernacle. Have you ever thought of that name? Have you ever thought of that? Think of that for a moment. Faith, what? What is the meaning of tabernacle? Dwelling place. Is that not so? So, Faith Tabernacle simply means the dwelling place of... So how can you be here and be in doubt?
As I heard that word, it just dawned on me because I tied a scarf on my hair. So I said, since I'm coming from the Faith Tabernacle, that means everything about me is anointed. Even everything from head to toe is faith. So I removed that scarf. I tied it on his wrist. After I did that, I carried him up, seated him in a sitting position, and I stayed at his back. His leaves have already gone, his hands, they have already folded, the legs, they were so cold, folded. So I told my son, I said, get me the anointing oil. As he brought the anointing oil, we forced his mouth open, then we pour the anointing oil inside his mouth. As the anointing oil entered his mouth, he sneezed. He said, as he swallowed the anointing oil, he said, where am I? Then I noticed that he could not lift that hand. I said, my son, rub the anointing oil on the hand and leg. And he rubbed it on his hand and leg. The hand that has already folded, the hand started moving. He started moving the hand. That's how he raised the hand. And I said, look at me. Do you remember me? He said, yes. I said, what happened? He said, he doesn't even know what happened. And I said, do you know what happened? I said, we are in the resurrection period. Jesus resurrects you from the dead.
Lánàá yẹn, n fẹ́ dá ọmọ mi láàmú. Nítorí pé kọ́kọ́ tó lọ, nǹkan yẹn ti ń ṣe mí. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́dọ̀ Jésù. Nígbà tí mo ti débí báyìí, tí mo dẹ̀ ti gba Jésù sínú ayé mi. Ó dẹ̀ ti ṣe jẹ́ pé nǹkan gbogbo ìgbà náà Jésù ni mò ń ké pè. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí àwa ti ṣe ń fa tẹ̀sùbà tó dẹ̀ jẹ́ pé kọ́ ní nǹkan tá à ń kà lé orí ẹ̀ mo ní mi ò ka yẹn mo ní mo fẹ́ máa sọ wípé Jésù ṣeun Jésù ṣeun Jésù ṣeun Jésù ṣeun tí mo ka 113 mo dúpẹ́ o Jésù ẹ̀jẹ̀ sí Jésù wò mí mọ́ mo rí gbàlà lọ́dọ̀ Jésù.
The other day he asked me why am I following Jesus? I said because of healing. And God has already backed his word and he has shown his miracle in his life. I just want to give God the glory.